I do apologize that it has taken me so long to get to this 9th entry. I've been playing too much Mass Effect 3 and other things in my life have been out of sorts. That's neither here nor there, however. Let's move on to some lore. I need to note first that I outright screwed up when I called the process of undead and humanity as the Pygmies' Covenant. That would more so be the plan of the Dark Lord, his sneaky way of rising up through the use of humans. If you were to have a covenant, then it would be the Darkwraiths. If you think about it, this makes sense fairly rapidly, but I would rather explain. First, let's hit the Five Kings. I like to call them the Five Kings. We know that they did not originate as Abyss monsters. Formerly, they were lords given shards of Lord Gwyn's soul in order to become that much more powerful and keep watch over New Londo. The bequeathed Lord Soul shard reads, "Soul of one of the four kings who fell to dark, a fragment of a Lord Soul discovered at the dawn of the Age of Fire." We know that Gwyn would not give a part of his soul to four evil creatures, especially not those who would inhabit the Abyss and ultimately cause the expansion of his kingdom, New Londo, to be required to be flooded and inaccessible. We know this happened by the key to the seal description, key to the floodgates of New Londo, which seal away the four kings who fell to dark. The sealers flooded New Londo to banish the Darkwraiths and the four kings. The agonizing decision was made with the realization that countless lives and the robust culture of the city would be lost. The victims now roam the ruins as ghosts. Now, I can't show you this item description, but if you take the time to look at it in-game, you'll notice something very peculiar. You can notice the same occurrence on the Dark Sword description. The Sword of the Knights of the Four Kings of New Londo. Its blade is wide and thick, and it is wielded in an unusual manner. When the four kings were seduced by evil, their knights became Darkwraiths, servants of the dark who wielded these dark swords. The word dark listed for both these items is deliberately capitalized. We know one of the primary purposes of the Darkwraiths, if not the main, was to steal humanity as per the Dark Hand. The Darkwraiths, incited by Koth, used the power of the Dark Soul to absorb humanity, an art shared by this weapon which also acts as a special shield. The ancients, particularly, could sap the humanity of even a replete saint in the blink of an eye. This already all points to the Darkwraiths being the covenant of the Dark Lord, but I also want to include that I believe the Abyss is exactly the realm of the Dark Lord. Gwyn has, or had, Anor Londo, Seath has the Duke's Archives, and the Dark Lord has the Abyss. Every powerful lord has some place in which they reside, and the Abyss belongs to the Dark Lord. This leaves one important question. Why do the four kings and Darkwraiths attack you, particularly after you've joined their covenant? For the same reason that many humanoids attack you in this game, they have gone hollow. It's actually more practical to guess that the four kings are a twisted evil lord that cannot help themselves from striking against anyone who threatens their territory, but there is also the game mechanic where they need enemies and a boss there. Lastly, keep in mind that it was the Abyss specifically that transformed the four kings and their knights. I don't even know if there is a debate over what Sif is, but let's pretend that there is so that I have something more to talk about. I'm sure some people will disagree with me when I say that Sif is Artorias, the knight that formerly served Gwyn. I don't have all that much proof of this, only reasoning and deduction. We know that Sif guards the grave, and we know for sure that the area we battle Sif on is the grave as per the Soul of Sif description. Soul of Sif, the great grey wolf, who guards the grave of Artorias the Abyss Walker, special beings with special souls. He was the soul of Sif, who inherited the divine Night Sword to acquire a huge amount of souls, or to create a unique weapon. Two things to note from this. The first being that the area we fight Sif in is Artorias' grave. Second is the inheriting of the divine Night Sword. I can take no other meaning than for this to be the large sword that Sif attacks with. A sword that looks nearly identical to the great sword of Artorias, the one difference being that of size. Strange that the soul of the Wolf Guardian would relinquish the sword belonging to the human buried. It is Artorias' sword too, as the size is significantly smaller than what Sif uses. You might be asking yourself why am I even bringing this up, as it seems somewhat inarguable. However, there are two things, one an item, that causes confusion over Sif's identity. The first being any wording that lists Sif as the guardian over the grave of Artorias. A dead man can't guard his own grave conventionally, but Dark Souls has many things that are fantastical. The second deterrent is the Cat Covenant Ring, which states, The white cat Alvina speaks a human tongue and has lived since the early age of fire. Alvina was a trusted friend of the knight Artorias and the great wolf Sif. That sure makes it sound like the two are different beings, but the lack of a comma suggests that they are one and the same. I know I am being nitpicky about this, but it's my only physical defense against the Cat Covenant ring. However, there is also a theory that Alvina would not be aware of what happened to her friend. All she knows is that a giant wolf is lounging around the grave, and this is upsetting her. The most interesting thing about Artorias is that he was an Abyss Walker. What would that mean, and why would he be going there? It strengthens my hypothesis that the Darkwraiths are the Dark Lord's Covenant. Upon the construction of New Londo, the Abyss was found, and easily enough people could tell that it contained evil. So, Artorias was the knight sent to deal with the darkness of the Abyss. Or, the four kings and their knights succumbed to the Abyss after New Londo was a city, and then Artorias was sent to dispatch the fallen kings. Either way, what I believe happened to Artorias is the same thing that happened to the kings. The Abyss overtook and changed him, altering his mind to a degree and his shape hugely. The four kings were surely humanoid before becoming guardians of the Abyss, as are all the other lords and Honor Londo inhabitants, but now they are a spectre in appearance. Artorias lost his form and left the Abyss with the help of his ring, and then found his grave to guard as a last semblance of life. The Covenant of Artorias ring claims that a covenant was formed, but I believe this is merely the same interaction that the four kings and the Darkwraiths had. They were overtaken and transformed in their naivety of hoping to conquer the Abyss. So, that explains one of Gwyn's four knights, and the other rather obvious inclusion is the Dragon Slayer Ornstein. Perhaps one of the coolest bosses to ever grace a game, by the way. One of the elements I love about Ornstein is the proof that he provides that more than the Lord Souls exist. The soul of Ornstein reads, Soul of Ornstein, Dragon Slayer Knight who guards the cathedral in the forsaken city of Honor Londo. Special beings have special souls. Lord Gwyn granted this soul to his four most trusted knights. My interpretation of this is that Gwyn allowed his best knights, from before gaining Lord Souls from the First Flame, to take up powerful souls so that they could assist him in destroying the dragons. We know at least that Ornstein has been around as long as the war, because he couldn't get the title Dragon Slayer if all the dragons were already dead. He's also likely the captain of the four knights, which would rank him probably third ever in the kingdom when it came to the war room. His armor reads, Ornstein is believed to be the captain of the four knights. This would place only Solaire and Gwyn above him, and I feel it is safe to adhere to this belief, as Ornstein is the only knight still alive and in his true form. That's partially why Smough and Ornstein are some of my favorite bosses, because they aren't monsters or demons, but instead powerful people. Reminds me of battling the Prettier. We also know that Go, as in Hawkeye Go, was around for the war against the dragons. The Dragon Slayer Great Bow, and again, why would it be named this otherwise, reads, Bow of the Dragon Slayers, led by Hawkeye Go, one of Gwyn's four knights. It would seem that what Gwyn values most, how he chose his beloved four knights, was their ability to slay dragons. It was what mattered most of all, and I suppose it would also mean that the warrior was powerful regardless. Killing a dragon would not be an easy task. A fun thing to mention is that apparently Go will be appearing in the new content being released in August. I can't wait to have bits of my lore shredded by his dialogue. The Hornet Ring is found behind the grave of Artorias, the ring that belonged to Siren. I would like it very much if she were found to be alive in the new content as well, but I unfortunately believe that she was sent by Gwyn to kill Sif. It's likely that Gwyn knew who or what Sif was and didn't want the power of the Abyss, the Dark Lord, to spread in any way. Siren may have stood a chance against Artorias, but his transformed Sif version outclassed and killed her. The ring is found on a corpse after all, and Artorias' ring, the Wolf Ring, is not. What's excellent about these knights is that each possessed a particular specialty and were equipped appropriately. I may sound like a fanboy when I say this, but I would watch a movie based around the four of them alone. Ornstein has his lightning and thrusting weapons. Siren was a bladeswoman and scored critical hits. The Hornet Ring states, one of the special rings granted to the four knights of Gwyn. The Hornet Ring belonged to the Lord's Blade Siren. By boosting critical attacks, its wearer can eliminate foes as Siren's dagger laid waste to Lord Gwyn's enemies. Go was an archer and noted to be perhaps the best. The Hawk Ring reads, belonged to Hawkeye Go, who led the great archers. Boosts bow range so that arrows fly like they were shot by Go's great bow. which took down high-flying dragons. Artorias was a man of defense, able to take any hit and continue his killing. The wolf ring reads, "The wolf belongs to Artorias the Abysswalker." The wolf ring belongs to Artorias the Abysswalker. Artorias had an unbendable will of steel and was unmatched with a greatsword. Any PvPer also knows that having high enough poise is quite helpful when swinging your greatsword, because you could easily take a hit and then begin pulverizing your opponent. The last fun subject is Smough, who is not a knight. His hammer description reads, "Smough loved his work and ground the bones of his victims into his own feed, ruining his hopes of being ranked with the 4 knights." Not only is that disgusting, but it shows that Gwyn required class from his ranked knights. He was attempting to build a true kingdom, and therefore made Smough his executioner, a position of infamy.